Hello, my name is Wahid Lutfi. On this video, I'm going to show you how to install MySQL server and MySQL client on Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 9. And I'm going to also show you how to secure it with a password. So first, let's go to the slideshow. This is the first page. We're going to discuss MySQL daemon or MySQL server, and also MySQL client, which is the client installation that allows you to connect to the server side. And it's going to be on Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 9. And the next session would be how to secure it with a password. So instead of blank password for the root, you could just create it. You can also create profiles and schemas for a particular user and allow the user to authenticate to MySQL database server also. But the topic that we're going to discuss here, how to install it on a Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 9. So you can also see the browser side. I search for MySQL, and this mysql.com web page comes in. If I go to the MySQL community server, and then you can see that by default that they have Microsoft Windows, but they have it for a number of platforms. Whether you want to do it for Ubuntu Linux, Debian version, SUSE version, Red Hat version, Fedora Linux, Oracle Solaris, Mac OS X, and then even source code. You can just build it for all of them. This video that I'm going to do it for Red Hat. So if you select Red Hat, you can go download here the latest version that is there, which is for Red Hat Linux 9, and it is 8.033 is available, but I'm gonna do 8.032 on this version of Red Hat repository. So as you can see, I'm on a virtual machine, Red Hat Enterprise. If I open a terminal here, you can see that cat -m os-release on line 7. I have Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 9.1. I can also reveal the same information from cat etc Red Hat -release, which is a one-liner 9.1, and the code name is Flow. So at this time, uname-a, you can see, and then also I can do a clear screen, ID-un. I'm logged on as Wahid, ID-gn group of Wahid. So if I say DNF list MySQL, you can see that the package name is mysql.x8664, and as you can see, uname-p for platform is x86-64, or machine architecture is x86-64. So I could install the client side for it, and I can also say DNF list MySQL-server, and that would just reveal MySQL server is for Enterprise Linux 9. And the repo list is here, RHEL9 for x86 upstream RPMs. So I could say DNF repo list, and this will also show that I have already enabled the repo list for Enterprise Linux 9 and for upstream also right here. So it is available. That means I can install it, both of them. But in order to install it, I have to become root. So I'm gonna do one-time logged in rather than for every command. I put sudo, I say sudo switch user do su dash as root, and then I'm gonna type in my password because I'm on the sudo files as user Wahid. Now I become root. ID-un is root, and ID-group name is also root. And then grep -i root etc password also shows the user ID is 0 and group ID is 0. The GN is showing in group name, and UN is the user ID name. but ID-U it will show 0, and ID-G also shows 0. So that's how that information is there. I can also say get and password root. I will see that same thing. At this time, I don't need the $PS1 to be just showing me the /U for user, ID /H for host, and /W for home directory. So I'm going to say export PS1 is equal, just put the £, and that's good enough. Clear my screen. Now I am root here. I have the group root also. So and then host name is that. If I do host name and then cat minus delimiter dot minus F1, that would say localhost, which is the right one. And then if I do a PWD, I'm at root /root directory, which is my shell. As earlier I said, get in password root. My shell is /bin bash, and then my home directory is root by default. Echo $shell will say /bin bash. Also, I can get that information from ps command. ps, the last shell that is I'm using is bash, and $sign will give me the process ID of 8297, which is bash. So at this time, I'm good with everything. I just need to do DNF info on MySQL first, the client, and that is telling me that MySQL is a client version and MySQL-D is a server side. So it's a client server software that allows you to do database queries, creating database. And database MySQL is like Oracle is a relational database. It allows you to create a database and then manipulate tables and query on them, create views, create synonyms, create users. There's a lot of things you can do with a structured query language. SQL stands for a structured query language or a standard query language. The reason it's called standard because Microsoft SQL Server uses the same syntax almost. It's except Microsoft SQL Server is transaction SQL, and this is relational database SQL, similar to Oracle. And then with MySQL, you could call it a structure, and because it has a lot of structure when you create the tables, update the tables. There's a lot of languages. Data definition language for creating and dropping tables and synonyms and users and views. And then a data definition language is that. Data manipulation language like select statement, insert the statement, and data query language for querying it, and data control language for granting and revoking privileges. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at the database. And then it's also called data a standard query language as well as a structured. It's structured because it's almost like a kind of creating classes and structures on it. So on the C and C++, you call struct, and then on C++, you could also use a class. But in this case, when you're creating a database that has some rows and columns, that's a table, and that's called a relational tables or relational database. That there is primary key, foreign key relationship between the tables, and then each table could have a primary key, a foreign key, a secondary key or foreign key, and then the primary key is always unique. One or more record makes it unique. I'll discuss all of that one is in details at other videos, or I might have already discussed it on previous videos. But there's primary key, foreign keys or secondary key, and then there's candidate key, and then candidate keys or prior to choose the primary key, all the keys are candidate to be primary key. So one or more keys makes a record unique on a database. And then there's candidate key, alternate key. Before choosing the candidate key, the primary key, all the keys are candidate. Once you choose the primary key, then the rest of the fields become alternate. And that meaning that you can alter the database at a later time to just do this. And these are kind of for performance tuning, you have to do normalization. There's first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, back as normal form, all kind of normalization to make sure you get rid of duplicate and get rid of insertion anomalies, deletion, updates. There's a lot of things that we will discuss. But let's get to the MySQL, and then we will just finish this video what installing MySQL first and MySQL Server. And then if I just do DNF and info on MySQL Server, you get similar information saying that MySQL Server is the version that we are using is 8.03 and is x86 64-bit, uname-n, give you the local host, uname-m machine type, and uname-p for platform. So you can see we're doing it for x86 64-bit. At this time, I'm going to clear the screen, say DNF, search MySQL. Let's see if on the search, it shows all the related RPMs or packages that are supposed to be installed. And then DNF list MySQL also list them. And you can also do a DNF provides MySQL. See what or the name of the package that provides MySQL. You can see the RHEL9 for x86 upstream RPM is there that provides it, and then you can also do DNF repo list. Make sure that upstream is enabled already, which is in our case is enabled here, as you can see from DNF repo list. At the same time, you can also do DNF provide MySQL server, and then see what is that one. You can see all the name of the upstream again for it. And you can also say DNF provides MySQL D, which is the daemon. So you can see the packages that are there. So at this time, I say DNF install MySQL server. Let's install the server first. And with the server, you can see MySQL client comes in also. So once you install the server, MySQL binary also get installed, as well as MySQL D. And with MySQL D, you have the services that are getting enabled. And by default, it is disabled. So if I just say which MySQL D, you can see file user has been MySQL D, that is a symbolic link to libexec, and I could do a /libexec MySQL D, that's the actual executable. So if I say systemctl status MySQL D, you can see that it's not enabled yet. It is disabled right here. You can see it is disabled and it is not active. We can say is active, for example, is active. It will say no, it's not active. It's inactive. Is enabled. You can say you can check it there. And if you want to say at this time, just enable it first, and then that will enable it by creating the same link under etc systemd multi-user.target. So the next time the system reboots, MySQL will start with it. At this time, since I enabled it, I haven't started it. I can say it's enabled. It says yes, it's enabled. But is it active? No, it's not active. If I just say that one, so in order to make it active, systemctl start MySQL, MySQL D, it will install it because there's a service called MySQL D dot service. So if I just say status now, it is up and running. And notice the information that is there. In order for me to see that the main process ID that is started, it says process ID 9432. So I could say lsof minus I, and then the process ID 9432. And you can see, I'm sorry, not minus I, that this is minus P because that's a process ID. So you can see all the processes. And if I look for grep minus I for socket, you can see that MySQL.socket, the process is on board that there that is listening. So another way you can do is grep minus I MySQL D on etc services. And then if it doesn't show, just search for MySQL itself. Notice that the port 3306 is the one. So on the first two lines, it shows port 3306. So I'm going to do lsof minus I for interface name, and then port 3306, and I will see all the process for MySQL and that is listening. You can also do a netstat minus an for all in numbers, grep minus I MySQL, and you can see that it's listening to it on that socket. So at this time MySQL is running. Let's look at which MySQL client is there. So file user, then MySQL client is there. So I'm gonna say just run MySQL. If I just do MySQL right like this, it's gonna say access denied because I did not provide the proper parameter. So if I say minus u root, and then minus h host is local host, and then this is still gonna say the same thing. I just have to do minus p for password and type in the password that I have already set it up for. So that's there. If you have not previously installed it, you have not run the MySQL _ secure _ installation, then most likely you need to do that one in order to secure your MySQL server. So that way it prompts you for a password. Otherwise, it's going to be open and to that by default. They allow you to just log into MySQL without a password, and then once you secure it, it will be like this. Since I had done it previously, it is going to show that one. At this time, if I say show databases, it comes with a default database of information schema, MySQL, performances schema, and sys. So if I say use MySQL first, SQL and standard query language, that's what it stands for, or a standard query language or a structured query language. In both cases, you're right if you do it that way. So at this time, if I just say use that one and then show tables, notice that all the tables are there. So there's a table called DB, describe a DB. You can see that it has 22 rows. Select a star from DB. It will just show 2 rows. Select host user, for example, DB from DB, and then you can see that those fields are pulled from there. And then if I just say, let's create my own table called MyDB. So I could say create table MyDB. I could say which one field is primary key, what is the secondary key, what is the rest of the keys, or I could just say, let's just duplicate my DB from the DB tables as, and then I'm going to do a subquery here, select a statement here. as select star from a DB. This will just create a table with 2 rows that are there. Now, if I say select star from DB, it will give me those 2 rows, or my DB, it's giving me 2 rows. And so if I say select host name, for example, and then also DB and also user from my DB, it will show, let's see, describe host, not host name. Host was the field and not host name. And that is there, and then the same thing from my DB, it is there. So at this time I say I don't need my DB, so I'm gonna say drop table my DB. I just showed you the create a statement which is defining a table, data definition language, and now I'm going to drop it. That's also a data definition language by dropping it. The selector statement was example of query language or a data control language, data manipulation language, manipulating the data by selecting or inserting or updating. And this is how that one is done. And then if I say commit here, we just submitted the commit, so it is flashed, and then we are just quitting out of this. Or I could say show database, and then I could start show databases, and then I could say use sys this time. And now if I say show tables, notice there's other tables here. Again, if I say describe X $ sessions, and then I could just get that information. Similarly, if I say use MySQL and then show tables, notice that there are some views here also. And so I could do that one for tables as well as views here. If I have any views, I can create views based on a table for a couple of rows. I could do that one, couple of fields or couple of rows. And then describe a user, for example, is another table here that you can just select the star from user. So you can do a where clause also based on certain thing that is available for given information. At this time, you can also type in help here to run. You can also run like slash and then bang and then say some operating system command like pwd, and then let me just say the slash is the other slash, so the backward slash, the DOS slash, not Unix slash. So pwd, that would give you this, and ls will give you that, ls -l give you that, and then you want calendar command, you want df-h command, any operating system command you do, including systemctl status, MySQL D, you could get it, or MySQL, just open it and edit, for example, or cat command. You can get all that information here as well. So there's a lot of details here. And if you want to do a clear screen here, you could do that with this command as well. And then more details, either do a question mark and then get that, or /q for quit, for example. You can do a lot of things with MySQL. And as you can see here, MySQL is already secure, but you can run this tool if your MySQL installation is not secure. You can say which MySQL secure installation, this binary file user bin MySQL underscore secure underscore installation. It will make sure that let me just type it correctly. MySQL secure underscore installation, and that is showing you the user bin executable link format for secure installation. So if I just say MySQL underscore secure underscore installation. This will just prompt me for a password for MySQL. Let's just type in the password for MySQL. I'm going to just say yes, go ahead, change it for me. And then new password, I'm gonna type in the new password here. And make sure that it's secure for you. So you type in the password and it says, do you want to continue with the password provided by you? And say yes. At this time, by default, MySQL installation is an anonymous user. I don't need the anonymous user, so it says, do you want to remove it? I say yes, go ahead, remove the anonymous. This allows root password remotely. So I don't want to allow it remotely to log in with root, and that's done. And then remove test database. Yes, go ahead, remove the test database. And then reload privileges table now. I want to reload it, so I have to start fresh. Now clear the screen here again after this. Now MySQL minus u root minus p password, and then it's gonna prompt me. I type in the password and it's gonna connect me. And then I say show databases. It is there. And then at the same time, if I just quit out of this, and I can also type in with this syntax minus h for host, and then local host minus p, and then type in this. And so there's a number of ways you can connect here. Let's do another way. You could say MySQL root at localhost, and then minus p, and then so this one did not work that way. Root at localhost minus p, unknown database, because the instance name is not defined. You could just say whatever the database instance name is, and the way you get it is help here. And then you can see there's a lot of detail you can pass on. So minus maybe something for the DB also. Let's look at it on the top, see what is there. Session, get server. There's a lot of minus P for password, minus N, and B for this, C. Wow, that's a lot of variables. And we can just run it like on this with minus host like that, and then just type it in. It's gonna use the instance name properly there. So all instance might be localhost or something. Quit, clear screen. Just 1 second, let me check something here quickly. So you can also use the commands like MySQL minus u for user, root minus p for password, minus h for host name, and it's gonna prompt you for password. You just have to type in the password, and you will be connected to MySQL database. show database this, and you will see that one. And if I just say use information schema, then I say show tables, and then this one has views also in addition to those tables. So describe tables, you can see that all the fields there. Describe views, it's there. Select the star from views. You can, sorry, select this, I made a typo on the C, and you can see that there's 100 rows there. And then limit to, you just want only 2 rows, you can do that. Limit 5 rows, you can just run 5 rows. So there's a number of things that where clause, you can do it sorted in ascending order, descending order. There's a number of things you can do, join tables and everything. But we're just going to exit out of this since we're done with it, and we install it successfully. If I do a DNF list MySQL, you can see that those packages are there, and MySQL server also shows up that is there. And if I say clear screen RPM -QA grep -I MySQL, all the packages that I installed are listed here. I can even do query on those ones by doing a while read pkg, and then say do, and then say echo working on $pkg now, and then say RPM -QC $pkg, and then sleep 1 second, and then done. So it will just say that one. The package that are installed, when you do that check on it, it will show the query on it. The etc log rotate MySQL D is for MySQL daemon log rotation. MySQL.server.cnf is the configuration file. That my.cnf.d is now and the main one, and then var log MySQL.log is for logging it. So if I look at my etc my.cnf.d slash MySQL-server.cnf, let's do this again. I want to type in that name properly. So I'm going to say more etc my.cnf.d slash MySQL-server.cnf, and that is telling you the database directory is var lib MySQL. The socket file is MySQL.sock. The log file, the process ID, and all that information. So that is good. And just to show you, var lib MySQL is the actual database information that we looked at earlier for the schema and DB and all that related files are under the MySQL, most likely. And then the socket file is there. If I look at the MySQL slash MySQL, no, that's permission denied. I could do sudo in front of that and then provide the password. This video is gonna be much longer than I thought, so I'm gonna exit out of this, and then I'm done with it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure that you go to our YouTube channel, which is My Web University Free Education Videos. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, because you have a lot of videos coming, and there's more than thousands of video already, 1,130 or 40 videos already, and then I'm just having everything for you for free, and subscription is also free. Please subscribe, because you will be learning a lot of stuff and a lot of goodies here that I have, whether it's PDF files or technical documentation. Thousands of PDF files are available, as well as operating systems such as Windows, Linux, Linux, Red Hat, Ubuntu, CentOS, OpenSUSE, Rocky version, Mac OS X, Solaris, Solaris Express, and then OpenSSH, Apache Web Server, PowerShell, Python programming, C++, and everything else, Bash and awkward programming. So you have a lot of stuff, even videos on Farsi, teaching computer science related courses to the girls and boys of Afghan, the poor girls or at this time are not allowed to go to school. So hopefully they will be allowed to go to school like every other ones. And I hope you all enjoy it. Please make some comments so I can improve it based on your needs. And next video that I'm going to make is on the Windows platform, installing MySQL community version. So stay tuned and just make sure that you like and subscribe our channels. Thank you so much. Take care.